For us, I just want to update us with what's happening. We're just taking you out of the screen at the moment, Margaret, just for a moment, because we have the plane door open. This is the aircraft that's been carrying Nancy Pelosi, the senior US Democrat, and it has touched down, and people are now getting off the plane. It's pretty dark, as I said. It is, kind of 10 to 11-ish. At night there, so we will see. There are quite a few people getting off, as you can see. So we're waiting to see if Nancy Pelosi herself gets off. It might be a little bit tricky to identify her in the dark, but this is the moment it looks like this visit is taking off, because up until now there was lots of speculation about whether it would happen, whether it wouldn't happen. It didn't appear on any official flight schedule, and actually the schedule, just so you know, is quite busy. Started in Singapore, this tour of Asia. It's flown actually now from the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur, crossing Borneo and the Philippines, flooding north along Taiwan's east coast, and is now at the airport. And we can kind of see a delegation of officials, it looks like, approaching the side of the aeroplane there. Interesting to see what reception will be given here, because clearly it's quite late and one would assume it would be straight back to the hotel and sleep, but there may be official engagements already. There may be this official reception. Don't know who is there from the Taiwanese side, so we wait to see if and when it will be light enough to actually see. We can crane. This could be Nancy Pelosi walking down the steps right now. So Nancy Pelosi there, getting to the bottom of the steps, it seems, and being met there. You can see the flash bulbs of cameras, which could be helpful for us to try and see something. But a huge moment, this. Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat, and her own President Biden, a Democrat, would rather this visit wasn't going ahead at this time. There have been others within the administration and within the US, I should point out, for balance, who are actually saying this visit should go ahead. There have been similar visits in the past at this level. Nancy Pelosi, of course, is a member of the legislature in the US, not part of the executive, not part of the government, not part of President Biden's team. This isn't an official, if you like, diplomatic trip in that sense. Of course, the reason it's sensitive, as we know, is because the US has diplomatic ties with China, not with Taiwan. It does have other relations with Taiwan, but it does not have official diplomatic relations with Taiwan. And that is the way that China wants it, and that is the way that China insists it must stay under its one China policy. And that's why China has been given these furious warnings, warning that Nancy Pelosi should not visit. But it seems now she has, and she has touched down. Let's get the reaction of Professor Margaret Macmillan to that moment. Professor.
Well, let's hope it isn't one of those historic moments when we all look back and say, oh, that really was the beginning of something. I was thinking, of course she has a right to go to Taiwan if she wants. I wish she'd done it and then we'd heard about it. I think the Chinese might have reacted better. I think what we have to ask ourselves now is, what is the Chinese government going to do? And will it change their stance, among other things, on Ukraine? The Chinese have not condemned the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but they have not sold them weapons. They haven't really egged them on in Ukraine. They haven't shown wholehearted support for them. I wonder if that will change. I think.
I'm sorry to jump in just. That's really, really interesting, because I was going to ask you. My next question was, right, it's happened now. What are the options facing China? They could go for full-scale invasion. Less than that, though, what are their options? And you seem to be pointing, well, one of them in retaliation could be a change of stance, decide, actually, we're going to help Russia, we're not going to support Ukraine.
I think that's absolutely possible. I think they will protest vociferously to the United States, and I think the United States will try, to mollify China, but it's going to be difficult because Taiwan has been such an issue. And the current leader in China, Xi Jinping, has made it such an issue. And the other thing, of course, is he has this big party Congress coming up in the fall where he is expecting to be anointed as essentially president for life. And can he afford not to look tough about this?
Interesting. And on Nancy Pelosi, what do you think is her motivation here for doing this?
Well, I've been asking myself that. She's always been a hawk on China. She's always been, very, very critical of China on its record on human rights. I mean, the Democrats have, always supported human rights. And so I think she probably feels that she has every right to go and show support for a democracy in Asia. The other possibility, and I'm only speculating here, is that she is probably reaching the stage when people are beginning to wonder when she's going to retire. I can't remember what her age is, but she is, I think, fairly old to continue in this very high-profile position as Speaker of the House. And it may well be that she wants to show that she is a statesman of world order by going on such a tour. But really, the timing of this tour, I think, is very unfortunate.
And let's quickly touch on the significance of Taiwan, because it is a relatively small island off the coast of China. But the US interest there is not just military and strategic and historical, it's economic too.
Well, Taiwan is one of the great producers of microchips, and China is of course, and one of the things that's been slowing down Western economic growth recently has been the difficulty in getting microchips. Anyone who's trying to buy a new car will be aware of that, or a lot of consumer equipment. And so I think Taiwan is very important in the supply chain for high tech. And it's also, I think, important as a symbol of American determination to remain a Pacific power. And if the Americans back down over Taiwan, what does that say to the Japanese? What does that say to the Vietnamese? What does that say to the South Koreans? So Taiwan represents more than just a small island or smallish island.
And what do you think we're going to hear now from the US? Because we've heard those warnings from China. Now the visit has happened. We wait to see the response of China, whether that's in words or in actions. But then we will inevitably be asking the White House and authorities in the US, what will be their response now?
I think the American administration is in a very difficult position. I mean, can they afford to disown their Speaker of the House of Representatives, and someone who has been in politics a very long time and is widely seen as a leading Democrat? For them now to condemn her for doing this, I think, is very difficult indeed. And so I think what they're going to have to try and do is show support for one of their own without alienating or infuriating the Chinese anymore. And that may be a very difficult path to tread indeed.